And out of the dark, this racket hit us. At first, it was someone on a loudspeaker commanding whomever was in this house to come out with your hands up and nothing in your hands. And then immediately these grenades, flashbang grenades, began to go off. Actually, one of them in the rear stairwell of our home. And they throughout the neighborhood, these bangings were happening. So I went downstairs and asked my wife to wait and call people and tell them we were being attacked. I get downstairs and I'm confronted with this array, of military forces. I mean, these were military forces wearing flak jackets and carrying assault weapons, and the assault weapons were mounted with laser targeting beams that were bouncing off my chest when I came downstairs. My wife couldn't reach anybody because they had jammed our phones. So when she came downstairs following me, she was nearly hit in the face when she opened the door by a drone that they had sent up the stairwell going into our home. When we get outside, I'm questioning them, what is going on? Why are you doing this? They zip tie me behind my back. When my wife gets downstairs, they put handcuffs on her behind her back. And then they said that because of my persistent questioning, they said they were there because they were serving a search warrant because a Russian national was going to be indicted later that day in Tampa, Florida.
It was 50 years ago today, FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover made headlines by calling Dr. Martin Luther King, quote, the most notorious liar in the country. Hoover made the comment in front of a group of female journalists ahead of King's trip to Oslo, where he received the 1964 Nobel Peace Prize, becoming its youngest recipient. While J. Edgar Hoover was trying to publicly discredit King.
At the same time they were doing this, they went across town and then they attacked the center that we have there that's mostly in the white community, organized by white people, run by white people who work in the white community to win unity between the white community and the struggles that black people are involved in for reparations and etc. They used battering rams. They knocked down the doors there. They went to the apartment upstairs. They held a young couple at gunpoint, one of whom, Jesse Neville, is considered an unindicted co-conspirator, as I am. They went then to the home of Penny Hess, another so-called unindicted co-conspirator, and her roommate. They attacked the house. They knocked down doors, windows. They went to St. Petersburg, Florida, where there's an Uhura house there as well. They knocked the doors down. They took our radio station briefly off the air. And scores of FBI agents, armed FBI agents invaded. They raided the place. They stole all kinds of documents and electronic devices.
The deep state is moving in on too many people right now, threatening their rights. And that is why we absolutely condemn the horrendous FBI raids carried out against the African People's Socialist Party, the Uhuru House, and Chairman Omala. No more raids! No more raids! No more raids! No more raids! And that we offer nothing but unequivocal full support and solidarity to them while they're under attack. Please stand up, comrades. Turn the podium, the microphone over to our guests. Thank you for coming.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. My name is Columbai Antoinette, and how I always start any speech that I ever do is with a chant. So I want to teach you, or maybe you already know it, join in, because this is just the meditation of my heart, even coming here, and why it would never be any kind of retreat. We would never surrender. We would never compromise. We will continue to move forward and build. Fist up! Fist up! Fist up! Fist up! Fist up! This is what fight back look like. So I just really want to start off by saying, I really want to appreciate the organizers that put on this event, no matter what role you have took, small, big, or large, for making this gathering happen and reaching out to the Uhuru movement and seeing this unjust raid is your fight. That they came after us today, but who's next?
Well, after J. Edgar Hoover called Dr. King, quote, the most notorious liar in the country, a reporter asked him for his response. This is a clip.
Dr. King, what is your reaction to the charges made by J. Edgar Hoover?
Well, I was quite shocked and surprised to learn of this statement from Mr. Hoover questioning my integrity. And very frankly, I don't understand what motivated the statement.
I'm going to show this to you. Watch it at your own risk. Viewer discretion is advised.
Who's that? Who's that guy?
No more raids! No more raids!
We are proud to have guests from that organization here today to show that we are not afraid.
The mic is over there.
And we
Okay.
offer nothing but unequivocal full support and solidarity to them while they're under attack. Please stand up.
These are the Uhuru guys, I think. These are the insane cultists who got notoriety by calling Anne Frank a Karen
False.
on Twitter.
False.
It's the caliber of political activism we're dealing with.
False. Woo!
Are these the guys whose leader was arrested for having dead bodies in his compound?
False.
Yep, that was like 2 weeks ago. Also just one
False.
dead body,
False.
to my knowledge.
He's just lying there. He is conflating one group of black revolutionaries with another group of black revolutionaries. I guess all black people look the same to Vaush, right? He sees all black people. He can't tell the difference. Black Hammer. It's an organization led by a guy named Ghazi that, they do a lot of provocative social media stuff, and they've said stuff about Anne Frank that's deeply offensive, stuff like that. Completely different organization. The Uhuru movement is a black socialist group that's been around for 40 years. It's led by Omali Yeshitali, African People's Socialist Party. The groups have nothing to do with each other.
Discovered by a Yale history professor who penned an op-ed for the New York Times. Beverly Gage notes the letter occupies a unique place in the history of American intelligence, the most notorious and embarrassing example of Hoover's FBI run amok. The letter, known as the suicide letter, refers to the leader of the civil rights movement as sexually psychotic, a dissolute, abnormal imbecile, and a fraud. It ends with the famous warning, "You have just 34 days. There is but one way out for you. You better take it before your filthy, abnormal, fraudulent self is bared to the nation."
There was no one dead at Omali Yeshitali's house. There was no one in the African People's Socialist Party has ever said anything about Anne Frank. He's lying. He's intentionally lying to get you to support FBI raids against a group of black revolutionaries. Nobody in the African People's Socialist Party has been charged with any crime at this point. No one has been charged with anything. Ghazi and Black Hammer and the dead guy in the house, that's a totally different group. It's a totally different organization.
This letter is probably the most notorious symbol of a much wider campaign against King and against the civil rights movement, against the left in general in the 1960s. But for King in particular, the FBI had started wiretapping several of his associates well before this letter, mostly people who were suspected of having ties to the Communist Party in the 1950s. And so that really was the beginning of their kind of getting closer and closer to King himself. By 1963, right after the March on Washington, the Bureau had grown very alarmed about King's growing influence, and they began to bug his hotel rooms while he was on the road, and they began to wiretap his home and his office. So by the time Hoover held this press conference today, 50 years ago, they had been wiretapping King.
That's the level of what he's doing. One group of black people sounds like another group of black people So that makes FBI terrorism and raids somehow okay. That is what Vaush is saying here. Now, what do you call somebody who runs interference like that, who engages in that level of lying and dishonesty in order to help the FBI? I mean, it looks to me pretty blatantly like Vaush got a phone call. Yeah, we just raided the homes of a group of black revolutionaries, but they support Russia, so they're no good. What can we do to make it okay? How can we make sure that none of the people that have been protesting racism for years think it's okay? I know. We'll say they're the same as this other group. We'll say they're the same as this other group of black people that has nothing to do with them, and that they're anti-Semitic, and that someone died or something like that. There's this other group of black people that have made a lot of social media drama. So we'll say that this group that has nothing to do with this other group is the same as that, and most white people are racist, and they think all black people are the same, and that'll work. Okay, very good, very good. All right, Vaush, your instructions are to say that the Uhuru movement that has not done anything, that none of them have even been charged with any crimes, your job is to pretend that they're the same as this other group, Black Hammer. Got it? Okay, very good. Click.
If a man doesn't have a job or an income, he has neither life nor liberty and the possibility for the pursuit of happiness. He merely exists.
First of all, if you actually look at any of the behind-the-scenes discourse on the Force the Vote types, they admit that they know there's absolutely no potential that Force the Vote would have actually gotten Medicare for All even tabled. Like, not even put out there, They knew it. They admitted it was a virtue signal to condemn the people who said they'd support it but actually don't support it, which is meaningless. You want to talk about holding people's feet to the fire, but then you advocate for the most meaningless virtue signal.
Estimated that we spend $322,000 for each enemy we kill in Vietnam, while we spend in the so-called war on poverty in America only about $53 for each person classified as poor. The promises of the Great Society have been shot down on the battlefield of Vietnam, making the poor, white and Negro, bear the heaviest burdens both at the front and at home.
Just unbelievable. The war effort for Ukraine is going better than I think anyone dared hope. I understand that when I say this, and keep in mind, I still fully expect Ukraine to fall at some point, to fall to the overwhelming military superiority of Russia. For a time. Not permanently, but for a time. But the fact that it has held out for this long, the fact that this is the blood that is being let, is incredible.
US citizens are asking why their taxes are being spent on helping a foreign country, while Americans are left to suffer from the effects of inflation, as Auntie's Caleb Maupin explains.
But polls come out showing that Ukraine is not even among the top 9 issues that American voters are concerned about. When asked what they are concerned about, they list inflation, they list border security, they list crime. They don't even list Ukraine among the top 9 issues, even though that is a priority and one of the main things that the Biden administration and its allies are speaking about when they address the public.
And it didn't cost the nation 1 penny to integrate lunch counters. It didn't cost the nation 1 penny to guarantee the right to vote. But now we are dealing with issues that cannot be solved without the nation spending billions of dollars and undergoing a radical redistribution of economic power. Yeah.
It turns out, Tulsi Gabbard, you can criticize the military-industrial complex and establishment Dems while being a fascist. You can criticize big business while being a fascist. You can do a lot of things while being a fascist.
Was sent to the King home and discovered by his wife, Coretta Scott King. Dr. King assumed the letter and tape were from the FBI, and after his death, a Senate committee confirmed as much. In an age where whistleblowers like Edward Snowden have exposed just how far agencies like the NSA or FBI can reach, the newly released full version of the suicide letter is worrisome to many. The Electronic Frontier Foundation released a statement on the letter. The implications of these types of strategies in the digital age are chilling. Imagine Facebook chats, porn viewing history, emails, and more made public to discredit a leader who threatens the status quo or used to blackmail. These are not far-fetched ideas. And Vox calls the letter a terrifying reminder of what government surveillance agencies can be capable of. FBI Director James Comey acknowledged this blemish in the FBI's past when he was first introduced as director, telling the crowd, "I'm going to direct that all new agents and analysts also visit the Martin Luther King Memorial here in Washington. I think it will serve as a different kind of lesson, one more personal to the Bureau."
You're a hypocrite because you are funding neo-Nazis in Ukraine. They are wearing the Black Sun symbol, the same symbol that the Buffalo shooter used, the same symbol that the person who almost killed the vice president in Argentina used. You voted to mobilize and send money to Ukrainian Nazis. You're a coward. You're a progressive socialist. Where are you against the war mobilization? He's telling the right truth. You have done nothing. Tulsi Gabbard has shown guts where you've shown cowardice.
I'm giving my money to Ukraine. I have every right to disrespect you because you're the one causing inflation with 80 million to Ukraine, Dan. Oh, I'm sorry, billion. My mistake, Dan. You're a fraud.
Now, there have been many concerns about the list of information terrorists that has been published by the Ukrainian government. There are American citizens on the list. Many see this list as almost a fatwa or a hit list, and there have been acts of violence perpetrated by people listed by the Ukrainian government as being information terrorists. The fact that the Ukrainian government seems to be threatening American citizens is something that just doesn't sit well with a lot of the population.
All labor has dignity.
Yes.
But you are doing another thing. You are reminding not only Memphis, but you are reminding the nation that it is a crime for people to live in this rich nation and receive starvation wages.
America's opportunity to help bridge the gulf between the haves and the have-nots. And the question is whether America will do it. There's nothing new about poverty. What is new is that we now have the techniques and the resources to get rid of poverty. And the real question is whether we have the will.
Received the Nobel Peace Prize, and when he came back, he found this letter and this tape waiting for him. He knew almost immediately when he received it that it was not just some anonymous person sending him this package, but he recognized pretty quickly, as did an inner circle of his confidants, that this has come from the FBI. He understood it as a threat. There's some evidence that, he obviously was quite alarmed by this, but that it actually sank him into a certain amount of depression and alarm about what was going to come next. But he actually never spoke publicly about the letter, about the package, and it wasn't public knowledge until the 1970s, after King had been assassinated and after Hoover had also died.